Welcome to Game Crunch, your weekly video game podcast. My name is Mike Anastasia. With me today we got Brandon.
Hello.
We're going to talk about games and things.
Games and things.
So, we are on our summer break right now, kind of. This is a pre-recorded episode, because I'm on vacation, and Brandon's on vacation now.
You probably doubt
I'm
that.
on vacation. By default. So anyways, so obviously we don't have current news to talk about. Odds are it's beginning of July, or not beginning of July, beginning of August. So
August, yeah.
Yep. We have already long sailed past the beginning of July.
Yeah.
But anyways, so I should be on a plane somewhere, and
Where are you going?
So I'm going up to Scandinavia. So Norway, Sweden, and Denmark is where it's
That's
gonna be.
cool.
It should be really fun.
Mm-hmm. Bring me back some pictures. I want to see. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I actually, I'll just send you a picture of this boat ride. I had just kind of like flipped what my plans were to kind of make arrangements for it. But it should be a really good trip. But obviously, with plane trips come lots of free time to play things, and I usually like to pick up something to play on the plane. So that is where this episode is going.
Oh shit!
So this is what I'm thinking. So this is what I'm thinking. So I thought this would be a fun experiment. I thought, all right. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to sell me on 3 games.
All right.
So 3 games. Once I have a list of 3 games that like I'm like, okay, I would definitely play this. I'm gonna give that list back to you. So you can pick which game of those 3 I'll play, and then I'll buy that one. That's what.
Oh wow! Oh wow! Okay, I'm not up to date on what's on the Switch currently. So this might take a little bit of extra time because I have to research and make sure that it has actually released on the Switch. I'm not misremembering. So I'm just gonna let you know that ahead of time.
But ideally, I would like so obviously indie game probably would be best. That's kind of what I'm looking for. Something that I think probably not that it should not that it would definitely be like a deal breaker, but just because I know how I am on planes, and every time I've tried to buy something grandiose like an RPG, I get like 10 seconds into it and just don't have like the fortitude to keep playing it like during the trip. So ideally,
I'm feeling a roguelike. That's what I'm feeling.
I think a roguelike probably would be
pretty easily. Yeah.
Hop in, hop out pretty easily. A lot of variety there. Obviously I've been enjoying roguelikes, so that seems like a good genre to go with. But yeah, so like the table's really yours. So I'm just kind of like, really just kind of letting you think of. I mean, obviously there's some good stuff that's come out this year, some stuff we've already kind of talked about.
I'm checking and seeing if this is released yet, because this is a game I keep recommending, and it released last year. So awesome! I can actually recommend you to buy this one. Easy. All right, that's one. I've got one, and it is a roguelike, so there is that. Let's look at some more indie titles, because I've only got one so far. But I think the one that I picked is actually quite good, and I do think if it clicks with you, that it might be the best one on the list. We'll see.
All right.
I need to look at indie titles. Nintendo is not making this easy anymore when it comes to trying to hunt down the fucking kind of game. I'm like, I want Nintendo indie games. Can you show me that? It's like, would you like action, adventure, education? I'm like, I don't want any of that. I want indie. Can you do that for me? Or are you what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, there's gotta be I would think a better way to like.
It says there are 5 indie titles on Switch. I know that's not true. Like, simple as that. I know that's not true. But like, what the fuck? All right, let's just go. Yeah, it's only finding 5 indie titles. Oh wait, let's try this. Why are you only giving me 5 indie titles? What the fuck is going on, Switch? Nintendo's site is kind of scuffed, which makes this even more difficult.
Yeah, their website's not super great. You might be better off looking at like
I'm gonna
like a website like Deku Deals or something.
Yeah, I might have to do that.
Because you can sort that a little bit easier.
Yeah.
It can pull up the shop stuff. You can actually even see like that it's there.
Okay. I think
are you
I think
familiar with that website? I don't know.
I am not actually, but I do think I already have the second one. Also, is there any specific genre or price point you're looking for, because I don't know if you know this, but some indie games have jumped to like $40 now. So I need to know if that is on or off the table to be completely fair.
I won't limit you to price. So as long as it's a standard game, if you're like, hey, there's this great $1,000 thing.
No. Yeah. No, it's just there have been some fairly good indie titles that have been like okay, I'm giving you an example, and this is not the one on here because I know you already have this. So for instance, Candace of Hyrule is $25. That's normal indie price is like $20, but now they're starting to get like $25, $30, $40 for price points of indie titles. And I do think I needed to know what would be okay.
Yeah, because that could be a limiting.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I have I think $70 in eShop credit.
Okay.
So that is pretty much anything that's a standard eShop credit.
That's great. I have a lot to work with there because I mean, there's been a lot of indie games that I've been wanting to recommend that either I haven't fully finished or like didn't click with me, but I know they would click with other people.
Yeah.
So I think I have 2 right now.
Okay.
And I think both of them are $24.99.
Oh yeah.
So I think that's actually one's $19.99, and the one that's $19.99 is kind of the one I want you to pick the most. But we'll see where that goes because I honestly really want this game in general to be more well received by people because I think it flew under the radar because it kind of appeared and then disappeared last year. I didn't even realize it actually released last year, so that should tell you all you need to know there.
Okay, granted, definitely under the radar.
I've played this game myself since it was originally on PC back in 2017, 18, somewhere in there. But yeah, that I'll also give you a little story because I think that's also kind of interesting to tackle what happened to the game, which is kind of random as well.
Okay.
So let's grab that one. So I've got 2 now, I think, and both are indie titles. One is a roguelike, and the other is actually a puzzle platformer.
Okay.
So those
are good so far.
Those are 2 that I've picked, and the one that is a roguelike also has some card-based elements. And I know you've been playing some card games lately, but I also think that the elements in this game where it uses the cards are actually so minimal that it doesn't really matter that much. And I would not call it a card game roguelike. I would call it more of a like choose your own adventure, not really RPG, but also has some elements of that. It's got the the Cthulhu, the spooky mythos kind of vibe, all of like Eternal Darkness and stuff like that. It's got that vibe to it.
Is it kind of like a horror game?
Or it is 100% a cosmic horror game, but it's a cosmic horror game that's a roguelike with choose your own adventure elements.
Okay, I'm liking this so far.
It is one of my favorites, and like I said, this is a game that released on PC way back when. It was even released on Game Pass way back when, but it actually got removed from Game Pass because the developer of the game disappeared without a trace. He vanished, and people thought the game was abandoned. It even got downvoted for a long time on PC because there were new updates. Period. And the only updates were coming from the actual community that was like making mods for it and stuff like that. But then there were like rumors that like the person that was making it passed away during COVID and this, that, and the other, and all this other shit, and no one knew what happened to the person. And then apparently they randomly resurfaced last year and released it fully on all consoles. So there you go. That happened. I think there's one other game I want on this list that's kind of I want this. Let's see if you have it. Or let's see if it's on Switch, I guess would be okay. Yep, I'm going to go with these 3 games, I think. All right. So, I'm going to give you the first 2 recommendations. I'll put them, you want them in like general or something? Or chat? Okay. All right. So the first one I'm going to recommend is called Animal Well. this game really took off this year. It was included in PS Plus. It's the first game from Donkey's indie game company. The person that's creating it's not Donkey. I do not fully know who made it. I'm very sorry to whoever it was that developed this game, but you did an excellent job. This game didn't really click with me because I wasn't in the mood for something like this, but I can tell you that it is a very competent and really well-made game. See, I did not finish it, but I do know that this is really well-made, and it makes me think of things like Fez and like a game that's like more than meets the eye on the surface. And I know it's definitely that kind of game, and I think I'm going to go back to it later on myself and re-explore the rest of it and try to finish the entire thing. I think it's a really cool puzzle platform that has a lot of really interesting concepts in it, and that is why I recommended this one.
Yeah, and actually, I 100% am up with that being one of the 3 on the list. I would say, you know, kind of from my end of things, it is definitely, it seems like it's been very interesting, you know, kind of just the pre-release stuff that we saw, because I think it was an Indie Direct, wasn't it? I know we've talked about it before.
It's been an Indie Directs multiple times.
So I remember that. Also, interestingly, you know, it just came off Lorelei and the Laser Eye. And this was actually, when I was looking at stuff afterwards, after that game, this was actually one that people were playing that game recommended as, you know, maybe another game to follow it up with kind of like some, not like a similar game in terms of, you know, aesthetic and, you know, maybe gameplay, but so much maybe more so in terms of like the puzzles and that kind of thing. So
yeah, the puzzles were really interesting in this game. It had me scratching my head a few times, and yeah, they're fun. They're really fun.
Okay, yeah. So I think that one's. I'll put that on the list. So
yep. One thing to keep in mind is you can die and you'll just get put back to the last checkpoint, which is really simple. It's like very quick and painless. But you have no form of combat in this game. You cannot fight anything. So it's more about finding ways and to solve the puzzles and get around these things that could kill you, as opposed to actually attacking them. And I think that's a really interesting concept, because there's not a lot of games nowadays that get released that don't have combat in any way, shape, or form. So I think that's a pretty cool thing to have here.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, and that is kind of interesting. And it is nice, I think, with some of those like puzzle games, even like something like, you know, like The Witness, where, you know, it really was just like a very like non-combat kind of game. Yeah, definitely great with those kind of like world exploring puzzle games. So yeah. I think it looks, 100%. I like I think everything I've seen in this game, I think it looks really good. So yeah, I would definitely try that one.
All right, next one, because I'm going to save my favorite one and the one I want you to actually buy for last. But I will also go ahead and reveal to you, you could buy all 3 of these and still have money left over.
Okay.
So my next game that I'm going to recommend to you is purely based on aesthetic, vibe, and just the kind of like chill atmosphere of this game, and it is called Frogun. I do not know if you have seen this game, but this is a puzzle platformer done in like a PlayStation 1 similar aesthetic to like Mega Man Legends. And it's about a like top-down aesthetic collectathon, you know, Mario, that sort of deal. It's one of those kind of games, but I don't think it has enough, you know, to be like obnoxious. And the actual combat's pretty fun, and it's just a very chill and interesting game the way that it's done, because like the combat is done through your frog gun, or your throw gun, which allows you to like shoot things and like catch them with your tongue and then pull you into this. So it has some like old Tomba vibes. It has some like Klonoa vibes with like a top-down isometric aesthetic. And it's a really interesting game that is using that PlayStation 1 style that's different from the normal kind of games you see like it. I think this game's really cool. I believe it's also been on PlayStation Plus before in the past, and it's just a really fun, chill, like platformer with a really cool vibe to it as well.
Okay, but it has Donkey Kong 64 fonts. I don't know how I feel about that.
Listen. It's not Donkey Kong 64. I'll tell you that right now. It's not that. It's similar more to something like Banjo-Kazooie, somewhat, but it's not as big of a game. It's a fairly short game. compared to other kind of collectathons, but it's like a bite-sized little platformer collectathon kind of game with some combat in there that's serviceable. It's nothing major, but it's good, and it was good enough to actually get a sequel, which also recently released. I'm recommending the original first, because if you like it, then you should play the sequel. The sequel improves upon it in every single way, shape, and form, but this is a very interesting and different kind of platformer game than what we normally see, both from the way it's designed to its like blocky, like kind of stepping on stones going from one place to another, as like a gameplay style. The platforms aren't just like, here's a block, jump off of this block. It's like everything's kind of tile based, like a much older kind of game, like you would see on like the PlayStation 1 and everything. And I like it. I liked this game quite a bit when I originally played it. So not many people have played this one or heard of this one, but I do think it's a chill little platformer that's really fun to play. Very, very old PlayStation 1 N64 vibes going on with it. And the one I'm going to recommend that I think you'll end up probably buying, that I have recommended before, and I will keep recommending it until someone actually purchases it and then tell me either, yeah, this game's really good, or shut the fuck up, you don't have any idea what you're talking about. It's called World of Horror. This is a horror-based roguelike.
You told me about this game before.
I have. This is a horror-based roguelike, choose-your-own-adventure RPG game, where essentially you're attempting to figure out, a la like detective style, what is going on. You have like dice rolls and everything that are all done in the background, and you have combat here, but it's a choose-your-own-adventure, and it's a roguelike, so once you die, you start over, new character. You will have some of the same things will happen if you make the same choices, but most of the time it's going to be randomly generated, the story and what you're going to be getting into. It's got some abilities, and when you do things such as like search like lockers or whatever, you can find like more weapons to add to your character. So for instance, you could search like a locker and find like a baseball bat, so now your character has a baseball bat, which raises their damage output that they can have. And if you get into any actual combat, it'll be easier because you actually have a weapon, so you have to like search around for all of this stuff. It's got Junji Ito vibes, which is one of my favorite artists. It's very cosmic horror, and it's really, really fucking cool. I kind of gave you the outline of what it is earlier when I was telling and explaining how the gameplay works and how it's a roguelike. It's based around cosmic horror. It's got some card elements. It's got some RPG elements, but it's a very quick game to get in and out of. You die, you learn, you come back, you have a different experience, so on and so forth. I think this is a really interesting thing, and that flew under the radar for a ton of people. And like I said, even the idea of it and like how it was created is kind of foreign, because like I said, people even thought the guy that made this died, and he vanished off the face of the planet for a long time. And what we were given in the end is a very interesting roguelike that's very different from anything else we have out there on the market. And the aesthetic also on top of all that, and the creatures that are created in it, are also very, very different from anything we have out there on the market.
Yeah, definitely. I would say so.
These are my 3 suggestions. So yeah, there you go.
I would say World of Horror 2. And looking through like the videos and the stuff too, it reminds me a lot. What was that PSP game that I played for a bit that we talked about years ago?
Let me think.
It was about, I played it on my Vita because I didn't own a PSP, but it was a PSP game. It was not a roguelike, but it was kind of like a explore the school. You get like transported into like kind of like a
Corpse Party.
Which one?
Right, Corpse Party. That one.
Oh yes. Yep, that's the one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a great game.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, it doesn't remind me of it in terms of gameplay, but it kind of reminds me in terms of like. You
just want me to recommend Corpse Party because it's on the Switch?
I didn't even realize that when it was on there. No, but yeah, I didn't get very far in Corpse Party, but just because
that's a good game. It
was really good. I did enjoy it. I really liked. I think I would say it reminds me a lot of the atmosphere and some of kind of like the visuals. Even though it's obviously this game has a very like an old school visual style, but very different from Corpse Party. But they kind of remind me in some ways of each other.
Yeah, definitely. I would say this is a lot more different from Corpse Party because it's not completely revolving around the school. There are other places in this game that you can go to outside of the school, so it doesn't take place entirely in a school.
Well,
so
obviously,
that's
the
difference.
The world of horror, not just the school of horror.
Exactly. But yeah, I will keep recommending this one till I'm blue in the face because I think this game is very, very interesting compared to a lot of games that do kind of similar things when it comes to like the roguelike aspect and like the card aspect and everything. But I do think that there is a lot more here that makes this stand out compared to any of those other kind of games. And again, it's a horror game that's also a roguelike, and those don't really exist. I was thinking if I wouldn't have recommended this roguelike, the other roguelike I probably would have recommended would have been like Risk of Rain 2. I think Risk of Rain is a incredible game that you can lose just days to. But yeah, if we wanted to drop one, I would drop Frogun because Frogun's more of it's just something that's very different, and I know you like platformers, so like your Marios, that sort of thing. So that's why Frogun is recommended here. But you could literally replace Frogun with Risk of Rain 2, and I would have also recommended that as well.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think Frogun looks super cute as well.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I think eShop has like 2 different videos on it, and I watched the first one and I was like, the second one definitely I'm like, okay, I can see where this is going a lot better. But yeah, no, it does look like it'd be left. Honestly, I was expecting a little bit more like resistance on my side, but honestly, I think I would really probably play any of these 3 games you suggested. I think that those are all great suggestions. So I mean, I guess you got.
I tried my best essentially to like, understand what people I'm talking to like to play when it comes to recommending games. Because like, I'm gonna recommend something I like, but I'm also gonna be like, I think you would like this as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So does that mean that you're gonna be like World of Horror? Is that what you're gonna go with?
World of Horror would be my first choice, and my second would probably be Animal Well for you specifically. But World of Horror, I think, from your background with things like Eternal Darkness and sanity effects, which is a thing that you do have to manage your sanity in this game. I do think elements such as that and your love of like Lovecraftian stuff and whatnot, the World of Horror is something that would really strike a chord with you overall out of all of these. But honestly, any of them, I think you would really enjoy.
Yeah, I may end up picking up more than just one of them. But yeah, so I think all these recommendations are really good. So and I agree. You are always. I feel like one of your things, you're always very good at making game recommendations, which is also why I thought this might be a good idea for this episode. Because you are usually sitting on like a shit ton of stuff.
I love this episode already, to be completely honest.
I figured you would not be opposed to it. I was like, that seems like something that Brandon would absolutely love, and obviously we need something to talk about.
Absolutely.
So and 2 birds, 1 stone, and also you get the payoff of you get to hear what my thoughts are of it once I get back. So maybe for more than one of them. So if that's your choice, World of Horror. Yeah.
Yep, I think World of Horror is going to be my choice.
Okay, I will purchase it right now.
That is awesome.
While we are on this episode.
That is fucking awesome.
So there's no debate that this is happening. All right. Let's see. Well, I can even use 97 cents of gold coins.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the more games like this, and the more games that are like this under World of Horror, I like all of these games that are down here also. Like, for instance, Yuppie Psychos here, milk inside of a bag of milk inside of a bag of milk and milk outside of the bag. That's a incredible game. I know it has
a game. That thing you just said, that was a game.
That is literally a game. I know it has the most ridiculous title, but that's a game about like social anxiety and how it really dives into someone's psyche, and it's actually like really good. It's like fucking $3.99 right now. And then one of the other ones, which is another one of my favorites that's down here at the bottom, is called Hypnospace Outlaw. And I don't know if you ever played that one, but it's really cool. You play as a moderator on the internet who finds illegal posts, like basically going through the old style internet, like GeoCities websites and that sort of thing. But all the internet that's on there in this game is inside of its own universe. So like all the posts you read will like move over to other posts on other people's web pages, and you'll see different things that kind of spell out the story of what's going on in this world through different people's internet web pages, which you'll be moderating. It's super fucking cool. Yeah, that I just wanted to point those two out because those are also down here at the bottom under recommendations for people that bought this game. Great games, great fucking games.
Okay, yeah, I look. There's quite a list down there for different things. A lot of I don't think I've heard of most of those actually.
Hypnospace Outlaw is excellent. It's so cool. I love unique, weird games, and World of Horror is definitely one of those. As are the other ones I just named.
I was like, well, let me look at. I just said, I was like, well, because you mentioned that, I guess I didn't even realize that they had those similar games.
Oh my god, Lisa's on Switch? That is insane. That game is wow. That game is wow. Lisa is a very emotional game that does not look like it would be, but that game's crazy good. I cannot believe they put that game on Switch. It is very dark. I cannot believe this is on Switch.
Lisa?
Holy shit. Yeah. Lisa the Painful Definitive Edition. This game is insane. This one, it plays like Earthbound. Okay. And I can't really say a lot without like spoiling the actual story, but just know it's really dark. But it's designed to play like Earthbound, essentially.
It looks a lot like Earthbound.
Yeah, yeah.
Men's Hair Club Presidents unleashes a direct attack.
Yeah, it's got a lot of goofy things, but there is a lot of things in this game that is incredibly dark.
I can kind of vaguely see that, even without actually seeing anything other than these screenshots.
Mm-hmm. That is an excellent game, and I actually probably would have recommended that one if I would have known it was on Switch. Holy shit, I cannot believe that is on Switch. And you like Earthbound, so holy shit, I cannot believe that's on Switch. That game's, that's a heavy one.
Okay. Well, I've added it to my wish list at least.
Yeah, definitely look into that in the future when we're not doing something like this, since I've already given you, examples of games, out of the 3 that we were picking, but like, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's
I'm actually like curious if it's censored on Switch, because like that game's fucked. Like, that's the easiest way I can put it.
I don't know. I mean, there's all those hentai games on the Switch. It might not be, actually. Yeah, I'll have to check it out. I've never even heard of it. So it looks like it'd be pretty interesting.
It is a series that started, I believe, as a RPG Maker.
I can see that.
Let me check. Let me double check that. Yep, it started as an RPG Maker game, I think. Similar to Yume Nikki, which I don't know. That's not on Switch. You know what? Now I'm checking because I'm really confused as to what is and what isn't on Switch.
You'd be surprised. Switch does get a lot of indie stuff.
Yeah, but there's a difference between like indie and like Yume Nikki. Like there's a big difference between those two.
I don't even know what you're even talking about.
Okay, so the remake version is on Switch actually, but not the good version. Okay. So I guess I'll just go ahead and throw this out there. So okay. Yume Nikki is another RPG Maker game, but it's very unique in the way where there is no point to it.
Okay.
But there's a lot of things that you can do, and it's kind of like an interactive art piece. more so than a video game, even though it is a video game, but it doesn't tell you what to do like ever. So like you may find a knife, but like what do you do with it? Who knows? You have to figure that out on your own. Or you find like a bicycle, but what do you do with it? Who knows? You figure that out on your own. It's a very open world game where you explore different kinds of dreams in a in like the hub world is like these different doors that lead to dreams, and inside those dreams are different dreams, and every single area you go into gets more and more abstract as you go along. And even like the way that you interact with the game is never told to you. So yeah, it's a very well-known PC game that was made again with RPG Maker, and no one knows who made it. It's just it's very well known in the indie scene.
Interesting. So, but nobody knows who makes it in terms of like just the developers behind it are just kind of like cryptic?
It is a singular guy that has never shown his face, or singular person that has never shown their face, and no one really knows what they look like, where they exist, or anything.
Interesting. I mean, I guess.
Go on.
Go
on.
I was gonna say. I mean, I guess that who knows? Maybe it's maybe there's a reason why they're keeping their identity hidden.
I mean, the themes of the game when you actually play it, are kind of dark. Again, a lot like Lisa, but like it's kind of up to your own interpretation. So a lot of people theorize like this person's like a NEET. They're like a shut-in. Like they don't want people to know who they are. They don't want that kind of pressure on them. They don't do well around others, and as such, they just kind of want to be left alone. But they wanted to make this to kind of get their feelings and things out there. And yeah, I don't know. I don't really know. I don't really know where I stand on that. I do think Yume Nikki is a very interesting game that people should look into if you've never heard of it before. There's plenty of videos out there on it, and the fan base that it birthed because of its existence. I don't know. I'm just kind of going off on a tangent at this point, but I do think that game's really fucking cool.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. This publisher has lots of weird games.
Playism? Yeah, because they took a lot of games that already existed. Like, oh, wow. I'm looking at the games that they have on here. Ib, that's also another really weird, obscure PC like game from what do you call it? Like RPG Maker. Mad Father, another one like that. There's quite a few games that this publisher is. Exit 8 is on here. That game is fucking cool. Yeah, this is like the niche publisher. Like this publisher has picked up a lot of really niche titles and brought them over to Switch, which is kind of interesting.
Right now I'm looking at Deer Simulator.
Oh yeah, that one's funny.
It looks so dumb and hilarious, and then it's got a DLC with a dolphin, with an oxygen tank, and a shotgun. Don't understand. Oh, and there's also a tiger with a machine gun attached to its head. Oh, and then there's something with a chainsaw.
You're just gonna keep finding more.
It's a giraffe with a chainsaw as a head. So, yeah, I don't understand what this game is, but it looks crazy. Whatever's going on makes no sense, but it looks crazy. Yeah, interesting. Okay. Oh, there's a penguin.
This publisher has a lot of
weird shit.
Very niche titles that I would not have expected to see on Switch. But that's super fucking cool that they brought them over to Switch.
Yeah. Yes.
I wonder how well some of these run. Like there's some on here that are like, okay, well that'll be fine. But then there's others on here that are like, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I know. There is some that are very questionable. There was one I was just looking at. So there was a game recommendation so when you mentioned the recommendations thing, which I guess I never paid attention to before, I was like, well, I was looking through my recent list because that also shows up like right underneath it. I was like, oh, Lorelei and the Laser Eyes. Let me see what they recommend for that. The game that came up.
Let me see that if you don't mind. Because I'm actually curious what recommendations they put there as well. So I'm gonna.
Only one, and I've never heard of it before.
Oh, The Case of the Golden Idol. Okay.
Yeah, which apparently is supposed to be pretty good.
I've heard, but I've never played this one myself either. Yeah. This recently came out, like a few days ago, didn't it? Like brand new.
It looks like it came out a while ago, but it just came out on Game Pass.
There we go. That's where I heard about it. There we go.
Yep, it just came out on Game Pass. Because when I was looking it up, if you go to the Reddit, everyone's like, "I just got this on Game Pass," and they're like asking questions. But it does sound like it's a kind of cool, kind of like exploration game like that. I think your choice is honestly probably more closer to, at least from what you're describing, more similar probably to what I'd be looking for in that puzzle genre. But also interesting because I was like, okay, that looks like it could be.
This one looks like it's similar to something like Pentiment. Have you seen that game?
Yeah, we talked about it before. Oh yeah, because there was someone who was playing it, and I was like, oh, I've never heard of this Xbox game before, an Xbox published game. Yeah. But yeah, no, we did talk about that one. Is out on the Switch now too.
Yeah, I see that. I also see Totem on here, which Totem's really cool.
The Case of Golden Idol though reminds me of like old school kind of classic, like point and click adventure. That's what it looks like. But yeah, so World Lord should be downloaded by now. I think we talked long enough that Switch even should have finished downloading it. So that should be good to go. So we got to look forward to. But yeah, very exciting. Also, interesting kind of fun fact I realized. I'm gonna be like spitting distance from where Lorelei, like the indie group that made Lorelei and the Laser Eyes is.
Oh, that's interesting.
They're based out of Sweden, apparently. I was just looking. They're like, oh yeah, it's literally a 2-man team, is what they said. They're like, we have 2 employees, but I guess they have like regular people that they'll just pull in to kind of like support their games. But they're like, yeah, it's only just 2 of us. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. But when I was playing Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, and this is kind of one of those like moments where you're kind of like, But as I was playing through it, like I was also kind of like pseudo like planning this trip too, and one of the places that like, so one of the puzzles in the game, I think I briefly mentioned it, but this part wasn't relevant at the time, so I did not. But it was one of the puzzles in the game involves blueprint puzzles. Blueprints like you would actually see like from like a building or whatever kind of. But the stamps on there they're stamped from like a city called Malmo. But if you weren't familiar with the name Malmo, you probably wouldn't realize it was a place. But because I'd just been doing research for the trip, I'm like, that's a city in Sweden. Like I know where this is because we're going to be passing through it.
You're like, I'm going to go there and see if I can solve the puzzle in real life.
Yeah, kind of. Actually, I was like, I was looking. I'm like, what? And actually, interestingly, so after that happened, I was talking to one of the people I work with, and they're like, oh, we're talking about the trip, and they're like, yeah, where are you going? I'm like, here it is. Like, oh, I was there like maybe like 10 years ago. He's like, I would really recommend going to Malmo. Like, it's a great little city in Sweden. We had an excellent time there, and it's like even if you don't go for the full day, it'd be a nice kind of like day trip. So I was like already planning on day tripping, and I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. So yeah, so that's gonna be, I don't know if I'd go and visit them, but at least going to like Sweden and Malmo probably will be part of that trip. So yeah, that's where that was. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I'm trying if there's any other like big game kind of things that I know are kind of like on my radar for this trip. I think there was at least one other one, and I can't think of what it was right now, like a museum or something relevant. Obviously, I'll talk about all of it when I get back. I'm sure there will be some things. Sometimes, just so my trip. Sometimes it's just something silly, like ended up in an arcade or something. So,
that's always fun.
Yeah, exactly. A couple of good gaming bars. I remember when we were in Boston. I think we went to a couple they had out there. That was kind of fun. So, I'm not quite sure what the trip will entail in that regards, but it should be fun. All right. What else do you want to talk about? Anything else in particular?
I mean, I'm just looking at the games that like offshot from like the ones I recommended.
Oh yeah. That deep rabbit hole.
Yeah, kind of. We got Minute, Gato Robo, Fez, Shovel Knight, Cocoon, Penny's Big Breakaway. Like there's a few games on this list and I'm like, okay, yeah, that checks out. That seems like something that would be like a game that's like, oh, if you recommended this, then like check out these. I think the more like this feature that the Switch actually has is actually pretty good.
I've noticed that with the ones I've looked through, and actually interestingly, so I pulled up Beyond Good and Evil. Like what ones would they think similar? They didn't have any recommendations, which might explain why I had not noticed it before. It obviously it's not for every game. So that's interesting. Yeah, and I agree. Like some of these games, I'm like, oh yeah, I can definitely see how these things would be like a good recommendation from this. And at least the ones I've anecdotally looked up that I'm like, okay, that's interesting. They've all been like seemingly decent reviews.
So here's something a little bit more interesting, right? I'm looking on Frogun, like for instance, I recommended Frogun. There's some recommended games down here that are like more like this. I had no idea had made it to console at all. Period.
Oh, really?
These are some of the like really niche like PC game titles that I'm like, wow, I cannot believe that is on console. So a few of them, Super Kiwi 64. As well as Tori 2. Those games I have never heard spoken about outside of the PC platform. So I'm actually like very surprised that they actually are on Switch. I'll show you those games because they are their own thing. They are their own rabbit hole. And you'll also notice they're 99 cents.
Okay.
So I'll just tell you this right now. Tori 2, there is way more to this game than meets the eye, and I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
It is a very interesting game. On the surface level, it's a good game. As you dive deeper into it, it is very, very interesting.
When you say very, like, more than true that meets the eye, you mean like genre changing or like?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, interesting.
Yes. I believe both of these games, Tori 2 and Tori 3D, are way more than what it is on the surface level. And Tori 3D is also on Switch. And again, I'm very, very surprised by both of these games being on Switch because I've never heard of anyone outside of like, I am a PC gamer. I know all about the niche titles that are like have a cult following essentially. I've never seen anyone mention it like that's played on Switch or that it was releasing on Switch. So that's very interesting. So this is a really, really good game on the surface level. And then when you find out more to this game itself, it makes it even better. I highly recommend both of these games just because of how weird they are. And they're 99 cents. So like,
Yeah. I've added it to my wish list. Yeah, there's lots. There's so much. I mean, hey, there's lots of random shit on here too, obviously. But like this cat milk game, the description just made me laugh.
What's the cat milk game?
Well, I guess it's cat milk. I don't even know. The description is this game is for cat lovers. Jump like a cat. This is a white little cat who loves to jump and get into adventures around the town until he finds milk to drink. Once he accomplishes his mission, then it's time to go home. A fluffy white cat. And then that is the software description provided by the developer. But this game looks like it has something nefarious going on. I don't know why.
What was it called exactly again?
Cat milk. I'll put the link in the thing.
Yeah, this is weird. It's $9.99 also. Yes. This doesn't seem right.
There's something weird there. I don't know what it is. Let's see. This person's like, have you tried it? It's 99% off.
Yeah, it looks like it's one of those scam games, to be completely honest.
This person said
discount it to a penny and then get themselves sent to the top of the charts. That's a really common thing on the Switch eShop, where people do that and then hike the price back up, and people will be like, "Oh, well, it's like in the top 5, so it's got to be really good." So then they pay the full price instead, and they scam people that way.
This person says, I'm 5 months late, but genuinely the worst game I've ever played. I want my 1 cent back. Yeah, so I agree. Scam game.
Yeah. So the nefarious thing was it's a scam.
Yeah, it's a scam. Not something secret hiding underneath the surface. It is just a scam. The secret is the scam.
The secret is it's a scam.
This game looks really cool. Agelos. I can probably look at these things all day.
Wait, what? You know what? I think we should just look at these things all day. We could make a whole other episode just going through the weird shit that's on the eShop on Switch, which honestly, I'm more impressed that Nintendo is so open that, you get dog shit like Cat Milk, but you also have these other games, like I was mentioning, like Tori 2, Tori 3D, that are very, very niche titles that don't really get a lot of gameplay or even mention outside of like PC. Like here's another one. It's called One Shot. This is a very well-known game on the PC space where the well, obviously, it's not. We were talking about in an earlier episode how you can't really recreate some things.
Yeah.
But I don't know how you would recreate this one, because the interesting thing about One Shot on PC is you have one chance to beat the game. If you fail, it deletes itself off your hard drive and you can never reinstall it.
Maybe this one just deletes it and just you have to be annoyed and go back to the eShop to download it.
Possibly, but that's also like that's part of the theme in this game. Like the having one shot is also part of the actual theme of the game itself, so it works really well. Obviously, there are ways around not being able to reinstall it on PC, so there's that. But yeah,
honestly, we probably could do a whole episode for something like that. We'll do something like this again because I think this was fun.
Definitely, I love indie games. You know that.
Oh yeah. That one I just posted, I'd never heard of before. You might know because it looks like it's a couple of years old, but
this game's awesome.
it looks fantastic. I've never heard of it before.
Yeah, again, this is another one of those PC titles that shows up in like a bundle somewhere, and some people played it, or showed up on a sale, and some people played it, and it's really good. So
yeah, it looks really good. It reminds me a lot of somewhere between like Shovel Knight and like Mega Man.
I actually think it came out before Shovel Knight, if I'm not mistaken. No, maybe. When did Shovel Knight release?
I mean, Shovel Knight's been out for a long ass time.
But this is from 2018, so yeah. I think Shovel Knight was already out by then, right?
Definitely, because Shovel Knight was on the Switch, or not the Switch, the Wii U.
Wii U, you're right. Okay, yeah, yep.
Yeah, so that was definitely, this game didn't even exist. But Shovel Knight's probably already been re-released 4 times by this game this game came out. But yeah, no, it looks super cool. Never.
This reminds me of a game called. Let's see if it's on here. I bet it's on the Switch. Yeah, Bleed and Bleed 2. Okay. I know the developer of these games. They are super nice. And these games are like fast-paced, 2D games that have like a Metroidvania kind of feel to them, but not really the backtracking. It's a lot more focused on combat, and the combat's similar to something like Bayonetta or Devil May Cry. These were also like PC games that I would not have really expected to see on here, but it's super cool that they're on here. These games are awesome, and developer's super cool guy, and they went on to make a game that I bet this is also on Switch. Nobody Saves the World, also on Switch. Game super cool. It has like a sort of like Legend of Zelda vibe to it, but it's open world exploration based, and you can transform into other characters as you like go throughout the game. So like you can eventually become like a magician or like a horse or just random shit. So really, really good game. Damn, there's so like, all right, here's the thing. I give the Switch a lot of shit for how underpowered it is, which it is. It is very underpowered. It is very out of date, and it was out of date before it released. However, their actual like content, like the games that they release, goes above and beyond what I would expect from not just Nintendo, but like any gaming brand nowadays. They really have gotten some of the more niche titles on the Switch, which is very impressive.
Yeah, I think and Nintendo, I think on their own part, really does not do a lot to kind of draw attention to what they do like behind the scenes for indie stuff. But they really, somewhere around the Wii U time, they realized, I think, that they were really fucking up by like exiling the indie crowd. And there was definitely a point where there was a switch that was flipped inside of them, and they just started actively catering to them instead of ignoring them. And I think it's kind of like, it's like we see like the indie world stuff, and we're like, oh yeah, indie games, there's a lot, and it kind of gets. I think they've gotten themselves to a point where there's just so many. Like even I think they're overwhelmed trying to get all the good stuff out of there.
Yeah, and then you have the things like we were talking about with .cat milk, where people try to exploit the eShop and the other indie titles that are good, similar to something like Brogun or Nobody Saves the World or World of Horror or any of those other games kind of get buried because of all the slop that gets dropped on the eShop. It's like kind of like shovelware all over again.
Exactly.
Where it drowns out some of the good games.
Yeah. And I it's kind of one of those like, I think it's kind of those victims of your own popularity kind of thing. Like, you're doing so well in that space that you're unfortunately you're going to attract some bullshit.
Oh, definitely.
But yeah, I mean, I think they're doing it.
I mean, this isn't just a Switch problem. Steam has this problem massively.
Oh, yeah. Everyone has this problem, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I do think, I don't know if it's because PC gamers are more willing to try just any fucking thing, but I do think some of these games get found and get passed around a lot easier, say on PC as opposed to like Switch, PS5, whatever.
But, well, the thing is though too, I mean, just kind of food for thought. Like even if you were going to, if you were planning on trying a game, Steam's refund policy is much more
so good.
Yeah. Much more favorable to that than any of the console holders. So, like, if you're going to try something, like, that risk is just not really there on Steam. So, I think that PC gamers would be more likely to try it.
And not only that, but, there is the risk then when you, like, think, like, the biggest risk you'd think when it comes to, like, PC games is, like, can my hardware run this? Is this good for my computer? But even then, with that 2-hour window of being able to refund, and I think it's either 12 or 14 days, if you haven't gone over the 2-hour window, you have plenty of time to see if your system can run that game. And I really do think that's a fantastic thing that Steam has done. One of the
100%.
best things that's ever been done in gaming, I think. Like, from a customer standpoint.
Yeah. And it would be nice if some of the console holders did it. I mean, I think they could probably even, I don't even know if they would even have to even do, I mean, I think 2 hours is reasonable, but
I think 2 hours is a point where you need to be right now, because there are some games, and this is running on Steam as well, where some people will try to make a really long tutorial to hide that there's no game after it, and some people will definitely try to like scam people that way, and I would definitely see people doing the same thing on console. But I do think the 2-hour mark right there is like where if you're playing a tutorial and it's lasting 2 hours, you're going to be like, something's fishy, and you're going to refund it before you're done with the tutorial.
I think I would have been pissed off before I even got to that point, so I probably
exactly. So like I think the 2-hour mark is the best place to put it on, and it would have to be that way on console as well, because there are definitely people that will try to game the system similar to .cat milk, like we talked about.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say, I almost was like, well, maybe you could drop it down to an hour, but even as I started to like say, I was like, no, I don't think that would work.
No.
Just for a couple different reasons, but one of them being kind of what you mentioned, but also really, I don't think an hour really even gives you that much time.
Some games you need more time to kind of understand what it's going to be.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think there's been a lot of games that I've played where I felt even like 2 hours in, I didn't fully grasp what I was playing yet. And yeah, I do think that is an issue. I honestly think that in some cases, at least on the PC game front, 2 hours isn't long enough, but I do think it's a very good starting point, essentially. There have been some other places where it's been like, no questions asked, like the first 24 hours, you can just refund it no matter what. And I do think that is probably a really good point and probably something that should happen, but not for every game, because obviously some games you could just finish in the first 24 hours,
Yeah.
But yeah.
I was thinking too, I mean, really, you probably could do, maybe more of like a Steam policy, kind of return thing. But then you could probably, maybe even consider giving like developers or publishers the opportunity to like opt in or opt out for certain things. But yeah, I definitely, in terms of things that can be fixed or maybe should be addressed at some point, in the future of gaming, I would say that's probably one area that would be a good opportunity.
I feel like that needs to come to consoles. In modern times, I think we would have a lot better made games. We'd have a lot less bullshit shovelware that gets pumped out the door, even if it doesn't appear to be shovelware. I'm just going to point to things like Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, for instance. Games like that are just pumped out and then left to die, and then they're like, oh, well, we got a DLC coming, and then the DLC is like a recolor of missions that already existed in the game, which is literally what happened with Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. I do think if you had that 2-hour refund window on consoles, that would really change the gaming space a lot. There would be way less of these essentially pump and dump games that get thrown out very quickly. You know, your Suicide Squad Kill Justice League, your fucking what's the most classic example of this I'm trying to think of? It was made by EA. It was really shit. It was a online multiplayer game, but not really. There was mechs.
Was
not Battlefield? No, not Battlefield. It was a brand new IP that I can't even remember the name of. It was really bad. No, not Titanfall. Titanfall was
excellent. Mech game EA. What generation did it come out?
Last generation, right?
So is it PlayStation 4?
Yeah, PlayStation 4. God, what the fuck is it?
EA mech game.
Anthem.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you would have a lot less games like that because people wouldn't stand for it. You know, I do think those kind of things would kind of go away, and it might even solve some of those problems we talked about before.
Yeah, it would help make some more of those like market condition kind of things.
And also, you'd have less people that are like not giving a shit and putting out games that run like absolute dog shit on consoles, and then just being like, whatever, you have to deal with it now. If there was that option to like refund at the 2-hour window, because here's the thing, there are plenty of games that get put out on console that run like absolute garbage. And sometimes it's because developers just don't give a shit because they've already made their money. Yeah. And other times it's because of the hardware. And, you know, I'm a little bit more understandable when it comes to the hardware, that sort of thing. But when it comes to, like, they just didn't even try, like, that's just unacceptable.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
I agree. Or like, things that should be maybe not hardware related, but, like, are technical issues that should be fixed. Like, save issues. Those kind of things are unacceptable, but do happen. Yeah, so, yeah, I agree with you there. Like that, and that kind of stuff. You would think a return policy would, you know, help with that, but at least kind of with the way it is right now, it protects for that. So, kind of lets them be like, well, you know, you should have done more research before you bought it. But at the same time, they encourage you to pre-order and do all those other things. So you don't really have the opportunity to. And most games don't have demos, so also not a possibility.
Yep. I think, you know, I mentioned the Steam Next Fest and the Summer Games Fest demos. I think they should have something similar to that on console. I think it'd be really neat.
Yeah, I agree. Hopefully they can do that in the future. I think Xbox tried to do something like that briefly at one point during one of the E3s, if I remember, where they kind of had some of the E3 demos were available like during that time frame.
Oh, Xbox 360 did that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good. It was good to know. I was not imagining. I was pretty sure that had happened. Yeah, something like that would be great.
Yeah, I actually remember that because Lost Planet was one of the demos, and it was called the E3 Lost Planet demo. And then the full game when it released was actually different from that demo, and people kind of like picked the two apart, and it was kind of neat.
Yeah, I always think so, especially when you see like all the changes and stuff. Like, what do they do? Anyways, what else do you want to talk about?
I think I'm good, honestly. I think we ain't got really much else to talk about there. I think we went off on a bit of a tangent there, but yeah.
We didn't really. I mean, we stayed pretty much on indie games. We didn't go too far away from at least that. So,
that's true.
We stayed mostly in that area. So I think it was a pretty indie focused episode. We'll do another one of these. I think that's fun. Well, depending on how it goes, we'll see how this game goes.
Hey, if you don't like it, I want to know. I want to know your thoughts on the entire thing.
Oh, you will know. I know.
Because he told me about Baltoro, and I was pretty upset about that. But you know what? To each their own.
But I, to be fair, I didn't say that like I thought it was a bad game. I just really was like, it wasn't for me. Like it was not a bad recommendation. Like
here's another. To be fair, I'm pretty sure Nick bought Baltoro yesterday, and he has 8 hours in it already.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I said it is a fun game. Like 100%. Like don't get me wrong. Like I do appreciate like what's there. Like it just poker's just not my thing. That's all. That's kind of just the fundamental part. It's just that aspect I just can't really pull myself away from. So, but I mean, like I said, when it's cracking, like it's fun. But it's just like I said, it's just kind of those aspects. So
yeah.
anyways, ready to wrap up then?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for listening to us tonight. Don't forget to find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google, Amazon, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Also, game-crunch.com has all of our old episodes. If you want to reach out to us, you can also send us an email at gamecrunchcast@gmail.com. Brandon.
Hello.
Any final thoughts?
No, I don't think so. I really want to do another one of these in the future because it was really fun.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's. I could very well see myself ending up with 3 or more of those recommendations. So
that would be awesome. I mean, I honestly, I kind of kept pretty much all the games fairly cheap, but that wasn't because of your budget. That was literally just that's how much they cost. So
which is nice. It's convenient. Yeah, another nice thing about these games. Like
I love indie titles both for price and like you do get a lot out of indie titles when it comes down to it. Like you can get more for less, and then you get more time out of the combined total time you get for each of those individual games. So yeah,
absolutely. I mean, even things like, God knows, I've gotten way more out of time out of quite a few of my indie games that I probably.
Play the Spire apparently is still rocking your Switch. I bet.
It was literally what I was on my mind as I was saying that sentence. Yeah, although I've been good. I don't think I played it last week, so that was nice.
You said I've been good. I don't think I've played. Like, bro, come on.
I was playing Civ 6 instead. Interesting. I never actually. I'm just gonna derail for 30 seconds.
Yeah, go for it.
Real fast, because I realized when I was editing last week's episode that I never actually finished what I was gonna say about Civ 6. Because when I picked it up this time, they added a shit ton more. Like I was surprised. Not just new leaders, which I thought they were done with that game last time I played it because I had just bought a new DLC pack that added a bunch of new things. But no, when I booted up this time, they're I looked at the DLC thing and they're 18 new leaders, and I clicked on it. I don't know if it was part of the sale or because I bought something else, but it was free, so I'm sure, I'll put that in there. Then I go and start up Imagine. There's all these button down under the bottom. I'm what are these things? Zombie mode. There's this hero. Yeah, there's a zombie mode in this game now.
What the fuck?
I'm not even fucking around. There's a zombie mode in Civ 6 now where you start out kind of normal, and there's still barbarians and things, but they're zombies and they go around and they attack you and they're endless.
Fuck?
I had gotten maybe 30 turns into it. It wiped out one of my cities. I got notifications a city state you've never met has been annihilated. And I'm holy shit.
What the fuck? Oh, I gotta look this up. I have never heard of.
Yeah, and I've only gotten in the beginning part of the game. But they're there's these new defensive features and things like that. And I'm what is this gonna entail? I don't know. Yeah, so there's an apocalypse mode where there's just way more natural disasters, and you can get a unit that summons them to attack your other opponents. So that's cool. There's a secret societies mode where it introduces secret societies in the game.
This is cool. Yeah, this is from a DLC called the Portugal Pack.
Yeah. So
which for some reason Portugal decided to give you zombies. All right.
Who knew? Yeah. So is that there was what was
out of Portugal, I guess.
Yeah. There's another one where it kind of randomizes the tech tree for everyone. Okay. So everyone's kind of going down. So I should clarify, everyone gets the same tech tree that's randomized. So you still are all going in the same order that's set. But it's random and it's hidden. So you don't know what you're going. So it's not you can be oh, I'm really going to work hard towards getting, this type of gameplay, this cultural victory or whatever. I'm going to do all these things. Well, you don't know what order those things are going to pop in because it's random. So you kind of have to play on the fly depending on what ends up kind of popping up. Yeah, lots of really cool quality of life.
Yeah, that's neat.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say this. I know you like Civ 6, but I think it's one of the weaker Civs. So I wish that was in Civ 5 instead or something.
So I agree with you originally.
Okay.
But I would say now, not the case. I mean, I would say compared to I don't know how the hardcore people compare them. So I might not be.
It's really disliked by a lot of the hardcore Civ fans.
Yeah, I'm sure the hardcore Civ fans hate it, but I've only really played 5 and 6, and I would say even as much as time as I talk about them, probably still somewhat casually. Like people obviously play them a lot more, but I would say the two DLCs, the two big DLCs that they added for Civ 6, the game is entirely different than when it came out. Like it's not even remotely the same. Civ 6 originally kind of boring. Civ 6 now, there's so many layers.
I've only ever played base game Civ 6, so that might be where my bias is coming from. But yeah,
and just with that in mind, like just like 100% agree with your thoughts there. Like that is how the base game was. I would even say that's probably how it was up until after the first DLC. But with the first DLC and the second DLC like together, like once they finally like completed that experience, like it is actually like a very complete and very like very deep game now. Much different than what it was originally. Like it's and with all the extra features and stuff they added, I would say they've gone and addressed like a lot of stuff that at least like I had anecdotally saw people complain about. Like they added a lot of old leaders.
It came out in 2016. It does not feel like it was that long ago. Holy fucking shit, dude.
Yeah, pretty close to when we started the podcast. I think around the time we started was when I picked up 5 as part of a Steam sale, and then 6 was not that far behind it.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
it doesn't feel like it was that long ago. Like it really does not. And as such, it's like okay. So I feel like I've heard about Civ 6 both from you and from the DLC I see released and yada 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 blah 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 for like the last 10 years, which I guess I almost have. But I also felt like it's fairly new, like the newest, because I always hear about it so often from you, for instance, and it recently released on Switch, like what, 2-3 years ago, something like that. Maybe 4 now, it doesn't matter. But my point is, I didn't think it was a 2016 game. So when I saw the announcement of Civ 7 this year, which I don't know if I told you, did I tell you about that? Civ 7 was announced this year?
We talked about it on the podcast.
Okay, I was just making sure. When I saw the announcement, I was like, oh, cool, new Civ game. Feels kind of early, though. But now I'm looking at it, and I'm like, wow, it's not early.
No, not early. This game has been out so long. Like, not only has it had 2 major DLCs, it's also had, I would even say, some
pretty it hasn't had a remake.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, I'm surprised it hasn't gotten that far. Yeah. But I'd also say, too, I feel like they definitely have done a great job of like optimizing it for the system. Like the game runs much better than it does. And I'm guessing I think it's probably because I think this framework is a lot they used for like mobile and stuff, so it's worked really well. Anyways, that was my brief tangent. I'm gonna wrap it up now.
All right, sounds good.
So anyways, yeah. So I guess where I left off, my name is Mike Anastasia. Find me online, Clash of Penguin there, or on your favorite gaming console. And until next week, game on.
Games.
Little toys on the shelf, they shine. Collector's dreams in plastic so fine. Tap them once, the magic's here. Amiibo, bring them near. Mario jumps and Link's got gear. Animal Crossing friends appear. Each one brings a story bright. Amiibo, light the night. Tap the figure, watch them go. In my game they steal the show. Every world from here they grow. Amiibo, magic starts to flow. Deep in dungeon or racing fast, these little toys, they're made to last. Memories from days of old. Amiibo, stories told. Touch the base, the game's alive. Each moment big, they arrive. Sky and sea and land we see. Amiibo, set them free. Tap the figure, watch them go. In my game they steal the show. Every world from here starts to flow. Deep and unsure, the postmen know. In my game they steal the show. Every world from here they grow. Amiibo magic starts the flow.
Let me know how you feel about that game next week if you do play it, or are you gonna wait until your flight?
I'm waiting until my flight, so I'm not going to talk about that one next week.
Maybe pick up one of the other two and talk about it next week.
Oh, that is possible. I could think about that. I will consider.
Okay.
I'm very tempted by Animal Well, although it will create like a paradox because I'll talk about the game that you will later recommend to me if this happens.
Yo, that's awesome.
People will be like, Brent's a fucking idiot. Mike was just playing this like a week ago, and he's like, play Animal Well. Which might make it a little bit funnier.
It would make it really funny.
So I may actually highly consider this, but we will see. We'll see what happens.
Gaslight me and be like, oh, yeah, duh. Like, just put in the fucking episode. You'd be like, yeah, I already own that game. I talked about it last week, and then cut back to our conversation.
Yeah, just to interject. Also, funny idea. Maybe bring that as back as like a sanity effect. I haven't done one of those in a while. Okay. Well, at least I know what clip is going to be in the after episode.